Hello and welcome back to Run Fast, Lift Heavy. Today I'm joined by Josh Summersgill. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on, Josh.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me, Phoebe. Thank you.
No worries. So before we get into it, I like to ask some warm-up questions. Because this podcast is called Run Fast, Lift Heavy, I want to know, do you prefer running fast or lifting heavy?
At the minute, definitely lifting heavy.
Yeah.
I do like to run every now and again, but not too much. But yeah, definitely lifting heavy at the minute.
I thought so. So, second question, what book has had the most profound impact on your life and why? And you can't say your own.
No, my own's good, but it's not up there with the rest of them. You know what? I'd probably say out of every book I've ever read, Why We Sleep by I think it's Matthew Walker, his name.
Yeah.
I remember reading that on my honeymoon, and it basically changed / ruined my life. Just in terms of because obviously I drink a lot of coffee and things like that.
Yeah.
And it just totally changed the way I thought about how sleep, coffee, recovery, and things like that. So yeah, definitely that one. It actually scared the life out of me. And I definitely recommend that one to people. Yeah, so definitely that one.
Yeah, completely agree. I really liked that one. Okay, next question. What 3 movements would you program in a birthday WOD for yourself?
For myself,
Yeah.
it would probably be handstand walking, probably I don't know, maybe a heavy power clean or something, and maybe double unders or running, something like that. So,
nice. Sounds like a fun one.
Yeah, definitely. Got to mix it up a bit. I'd like to go all barbell or all gymnastics, but if it's going to be a WOD, we'll have to mix it up a bit. So yeah, them 3.
Awesome. And then final one, if you could have a meal with one person, dead or alive, who would they be?
These are good questions. I like these. These are good. Dead or alive? It used to be Will Smith, but then when he slapped Chris Rock, I was a bit like, oh.
Yeah, some of the stuff about him recently isn't too good.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Probably Jeremy Clarkson, to be fair. So I quite like him. I think he'd be a good laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, probably Jeremy Clarkson.
Wicked, thank you. So before we get into the main bulk of the conversation, could you just give the audience a quick intro to who you are, what you do, where you're from?
Yep, no problem. So I'm Josh Summersgill, and I'm a weightlifting coach. So I've been coaching in the fitness industry for since the beginning of time, it feels. No, it's probably more like 10 years now. I originally got into it just basically because I love training. So I've been involved with training since I was about 14 in terms of the gym, but before that I've been involved in martial arts and sports since I was younger. And it got to the point where I found that what I was passionate about was not only fitness but coaching it and obviously helping people out. And basically that's kind of how I sort of got into it from my old job. So yeah, and before I became a full-time weightlifting coach, I was a CrossFit coach. So I had my own CrossFit gym, and I recently sold to my old business partner, and then I've basically gone to full-time weightlifting and sort of private coaching now. And that's pretty much where I'm at the minute. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at the minute.
So you mentioned having a job before becoming a full-time coach. Was that a 9 to 5? And also, how did you make the transition across? Because I know a lot of people, they might really love training and it might be their hobby, but they might be too scared to go all in. So how did that work for you?
So before I got into coaching, so I left school at 16, and then I went into working on the tools for a bit. So I worked as a plumber for about 12 to 18 months. That was basically just me and my best friend having a laugh for 12 to 18 months, which is brilliant. But yeah, that wasn't going to be long term. So after that, I went into engineering. So basically, the company that I used to work for went into liquidation, and then I was kind of looking for a job. And I spoke to my dad, and he basically said, "Look, there's an opening at our place. If you want me to have a look and see if we can get you in as an apprentice, and then obviously go from there." It wasn't something I was ever particularly interested in, but it was just a career option at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, why not? I'll go for it." My dad's relatively successful in what he does, so I was like, "Yeah, it sounds good." I did that for about 8 years, and it was quite early on that I was very much square peg in a round hole. Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't something that I enjoyed. Don't get me wrong, there were elements of it that I did enjoy doing, but definitely wasn't me. And I felt from a very like early stage that it definitely wasn't something that I wanted to do long term. So it basically got to a point where there was a gym in Warrington that me and all my friends who I trained with used to train at called Primal Strength and Conditioning, and it was like we still look at it as like one of the best gyms we've ever been to. Like, it was CrossFit was still quite up and coming, so it was a little bit before that, but it was very community based in the gym. Do you get what I mean? Like, it had that kind of feel to it. So that was where we all trained, and then I think it was one Sunday night I got a message off one of my mates who owned it. He was like, "Look, Josh, I'm really sorry, but as of now, basically the gym's gonna have to close. So it's like not obviously making enough money to cover overheads, blah blah blah." And yeah, so basically as of Monday, we all had nowhere to train. So, and as like anybody who trains knows, that's like absolutely heartbreaking. It felt like I was in the middle of a breakup or something. So yeah, so that was basically that. And then I'd probably say like a few months went by. We trained at different gyms. That's actually first when I went to a CrossFit gym. I felt very out of place. So because I didn't really do CrossFit at the time. I just prattted around doing gymnastics in the corner. Like, I almost isolated myself, from everybody else. And that's 100% my fault as well. Like, I don't blame anyone else for that. So yeah, I didn't really feel like that was for me. And then it got to a point where I was fed up with my job. One of my close friends at the time was also fed up with his job. And we were just sort of like talking through like Google Chat or whatever it was at the time. And we basically said, "Oh, it'd be amazing if we could have our own place." And my mate was like, "Yeah, like, I'd definitely be up for it." It's just like a case of obviously getting the funding for it. So at that point, it was like, right, okay, maybe this could actually like become something. So I spoke to the bank and got a private loan for home renovations, even though I didn't own a home. But they don't know that, and I'm convinced they're never going to listen to this podcast. It's all good. So like, because we couldn't get a business loan, so obviously did that, and we managed to get the funding with obviously some help from other people and stuff, and then we basically just opened up our own gym. So at that point, we've got our business partner is working in the gym full time. I'm still working my 9 to 5 full time and dipping into the gym as and when I can. But the gym's not at a stage where it can like sustain us both financially. So I was in this really sort of weird position where like I had a way to get out, but it wasn't ready for me to get out yet. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So it was actually a bit of a funny one, really, because I felt like I was so close to being able to get out and actually do what I enjoy, but like so far away at the same time, because we needed to obviously make X amount of money to obviously pay myself and my business partner. And I was trying to wait for this really smooth transition, of moving out of 9 to 5 into like what I enjoy doing, like the whole like, dream that's pictured. And it just wasn't like that. It basically got to a point where I was in work and I just had like, when like you have like a really bad day. Everyone has bad days, don't get me wrong, but some days are just worse than others. And I had this one day, and I can't remember what happened now, but I was like, I have had enough of this. And it literally took that for me to go, I don't know if it will work, but I'm going to make it work and just see what happens. So yeah, basically handed my notice in at the old place. Went to move full time to coaching at the gym, and like touch wood, like from then it all went really well. So yeah, I think it was definitely a case of if you've got to do something, you'll do it.
Yeah,
do you get
totally.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's basically how the transition works.
I think as well, if you're at a crossroads where there's something that you really want to do but you're too scared to try it, for me, the consequences of not trying and living in regret would be worse than it failing. So you may as well just do it. I mean, hopefully we've always got someone we can rely on if we're not financially secure. Go back to live with your parents or a partner or a friend. And the worst that can happen is you fail and then start again. So it's always better just to try, in my experience anyway.
No, that's literally exactly it. And I was very much of the opinion of, look, if it doesn't work, like, you know, like you say, worst case scenario, move back in with parents. I mean, at the time, like, this was before, like, my little lad was born, before me and my wife had our house and stuff like that. So we had outgoings, but they wasn't like kind of what they are now. So yeah, in terms of, I mean, there's never a right time to do things, but there's always a better time to do things. And I think at that point, like, worst case scenario, I could have just walked back into the same industry that I was doing, because obviously I've got qualifications and experience in it. So, so yeah, it was a case of like, jump out of the plane and just make a parachute on the way down. And unfortunately, we didn't open. So yeah.
Good stuff. So in your experience as a coach, what would you say is the biggest reason why people may fall off plan and not reach their goals?
Because it's hard. Like, I think you can butter it up in loads of different ways nowadays and stuff like that. But if you really want to achieve something that's worth achieving, it's not easy. And I'm not saying it's impossible, because it's not, because everybody does it. But like, for you to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, you kind of got to work really hard for it. Do you get what I mean? And I think, like, something that's massive that if you can get across to people, obviously when you're coaching, like, if they want, doesn't matter what they're trying to achieve, but if they want to get something, if they can understand that they've got to work hard for it, then they're more than likely going to get there with it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, completely agree.
There's loads of bells and whistles and all kinds of other stuff, but the bottom line is, like, you've just got to be disciplined enough to work hard, and that's, like, you know, obviously, Matt Fraser's "hard work pays off" quote, which has obviously gone massive now and stuff, but like, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. So yeah, I'd pretty much say that, like, you know, be prepared to actually work for something if you want it, and there's the surest shit isn't any shortcut.
Yeah. In your book, you wrote about running a marathon just on a whim, randomly one day, which was a really good anecdote. But I think there's a lot of parallels to your story with your running a marathon to goal setting. You know, a lot of people start it, it's going really well, really motivated. Nothing's going to make them stop. You know, you're running really fast. You're looking like you were going to do it in a speedy time. And then we hit a wall, and it's either you keep moving one step at a time, or you just pack it all in and quit. So when you ran your marathon, what was it that made you keep going? What was your why?
So for me, something that I've been lucky enough to hold on to from, like, early on is having discipline, as opposed to, like, just being motivated. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, it's really sort of like overused at the minute, this, like, discipline over motivation thing. I know I've overused it myself, you know, so I'm guilty. But it is incredibly true, because like on that marathon, I set out to start and finish. Yes, it didn't go to plan, but to start and finish, and there wasn't going to be anything that was going to come between that. And like I say, regardless of the fact that I had to walk at points and, like, all kinds of other stuff, like, the first bit, like you say, I was really motivated. I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Like, you know, I'm feeling great, blah, blah, blah. But after a while, like, that motivation just fades. Whereas, like, your discipline doesn't fade. It's like a constant. And that's, like, one of the biggest things that, like, I learned from that. I just proved to myself that I can be disciplined enough to do things. And yeah, so I'd say, like, that's pretty much the main thing. It's about, like, motivation's great. Do you get what I mean? Like, you can use it. It'll last, like, you know, it'll get you started. Like, it'll last a short time, but after motivation burns out, which it does do, you need to have something to then carry you on through. And I think if you're disciplined, then in theory that should do that for you. Because if one thing we know is to get better at something, you have to do it repeatedly, and you have to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you do something really slowly. If your progress is really, really slow, if you do it consistently over time, you're going to get to where you need to be. So, so yes, that was probably one of the main things for me.
Yeah, I think I really liked it in the book, the quote, "You can slow down, but you can't stop." You know, progress, whether it's small or big, is better than inaction. You know, and even going to the gym, walking on a treadmill for 10 minutes is better than staying at home and beating yourself up about staying at home. So linked to that, would you say that people maybe sometimes bite off more that they can chew? You know, they start their fitness journey, they want to lose fat, change the diet, build muscle all at the same time, rather than just picking one thing and sticking to it. Would you say that's
Yeah,
common?
yeah, definitely. So, so it's something that I go through a lot with like my nutrition clients, and it's basically a case of, let's say you don't train much, you don't eat well, so you're almost at like a baseline, say,
Hmm.
and a really common flaw can be to basically dive, like you say, dive in all at once, going right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna train 5 times a week. I'm gonna go for daily walks. I'm gonna dial my sleep in, my hydration, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then so I've got the nutrition. It's like right, I'm gonna get my calories on point, my macros, my protein timing, my vitamins. Do you get what I mean?
Hmm.
It all becomes too much. Like it's really exciting at the start, but it just becomes too much. And then the problem is because there's so much going on, it's really hard to keep on top of. And the next thing, the whole thing just falls to bits, and you end up doing none of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, like you've just said, if you can pick one thing, turn that into a habit, and get consistent at it, then you're just going to layer it up and get better and better. It's
Hmm.
like an example I use. It's like teaching someone how to snatch. Like within an hour, you can normally get somebody doing something that looks remotely like a snatch, depending
Yeah.
on obviously like current ability and stuff like that. But for them to become exceptional at it, it's like 10 years of training plus, if not even more. And if you're going
Hmm.
to coach someone to snatch, you're not going to give them 100 cues in one go, because
Yeah.
they're just going to go and it's going to turn into an absolute car crash. Whereas if you ask them to focus on one particular thing, then when that becomes like ingrained and they don't really have to think about it, then you can be like, right, that's dialed in. Now we're going to dial this in. Now we're going to focus on this, and you just basically layer it up and layer it up. So yeah, that's a massive one. Just like you say, have lofty goals and like
Yeah.
be hungry for it. Like I love it when people are like, right, I want to do it all, but like our job as coaches as well is to go, well, okay, yeah, that's really good, but let's like rein you in a little bit. Do you get what I mean? Don't run before you can
Yeah.
walk and all that. So yeah, no, I agree. That's massive. That one massive.
Yeah, I think something that some people might think is, well, it's all right for you, you know, you snatch excess of 100 kilos. I don't even know what you clean and jerk, but they might think, well, you're already successful. It's easy for you because you've already achieved it. But could you put it into perspective how long it's taken for you to be able to lift what you can lift, to be able to wake up and run a marathon in a day, whether you ran it the whole time or walked it just to complete that time? How long has it taken you to develop this level of fitness?
So I've been like I said before, I've been training in like whether it's like fitness or sports like from a very young age. So done. I can't remember how many different disciplines I've done in martial arts. Then like I got into like actual training when I was about 14 in the gym and stuff. And like don't get me wrong, when I started, it was just arms, chest, forget the rest. There was no like fitness involved. It was just obviously all like the show muscles and stuff like that. But that was, like I said, that was at a young age. Like I'm 31 now, I think. Yeah, I'm 31 now, so it was quite a while ago. So I have been doing it a long, long time. Now,
Hmm.
like when I first come into weightlifting, so people start at different levels, don't they? So like especially nowadays. So when you get someone new to like CrossFit or weightlifting, they might have previous experience in sport or they might not do. Now, if you've got some kind of athletic experience, your starting point is going to be a lot higher than someone who hasn't, just because you've had the years of training and stuff like that behind you. So when I transitioned into weightlifting, like I didn't have to start at ground zero. Like I very quickly went from like a wooden stick to a 70 key snatch. Do you get what I
Hmm.
mean? I didn't have to go through all the little jumps just because of what I'd done previously.
Yeah.
So, but saying that, I I've been weightlifting, I'd say properly for about 6 years or so now, and in the last, it's took me 2 years, if not a little bit more, to PB my clean and jerk. Do you get what I mean? So like, and I've not
Yeah.
like had time off in those 2 years. Now, don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. Yes, I've had like a couple of injuries and like my weight's moved up and down for different reasons and stuff. But like, it's still 2 years of training just to add like 2.5 kilograms onto a clean and jerk, which is absolutely ridiculous. And now, don't get me wrong, I don't lift. Like, if you put my numbers next to like some of the top lifters, even in our country, like, I'm pretty sure like Chris Murray is like snatching my clean and jerk from the blocks. Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely unbelievable. But he's been doing it again. Like, I think he's been doing it well into double figures now in terms of training. But yeah, it takes a long time, and I think part of that is you've got to enjoy it, but you have to be disciplined to do it, because weightlifting can be miserable.
Yeah.
like CrossFit is a bit more fun. Like, I love CrossFit. I mean, I don't do a lot of CrossFit at the minute because of what I'm trying to do in weightlifting. But yeah, like, there's times in weightlifting where you just sat there between like sets of pulls, and it's like, I don't want to fucking do this.
Yeah.
I want to do anything else but go and pick that bar back up. But just got to be disciplined to go back and get the bar up. So it just takes a long time.
Yeah, I think that's why weightlifting and the martial arts are great sports in particular, because they just reward you playing the long game and being consistent. You know, the martial arts, it takes years and years and years to work up to a blue belt, purple belt, whatever. And the person that's most consistent will get the results. Exactly the same with weightlifting. You know, you get a newbie gains where you start lifting, you know, for a woman, you might hit a 70 kilo clean and jerk, and then all of a sudden it's nothing for years, and you've just got to keep at it. But yeah, those that do stick at it will be greatly rewarded. And that leads me to the part in your book where you wrote about playing the long game, which I think can be particularly difficult in this day society where instant gratification is rewarded. You know, to my door now, I could order Mexican, Thai, Chinese on delivery, and it would be here within 15 minutes. Or I could book a flight to Australia, be there tomorrow, or call my mum and see her face on my phone, which is absolutely mental. So how do people navigate this and commit to long-term goals when they just think, well, I can have whatever I want in an instant? So what would you say to people that don't stick with it?
So if it's really important to you, and it's a really sort of lofty thing, you're not going to be able to get it instantly.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So like, and like, Instagram's bollocks. Like, social media is an absolute nightmare. To be honest, if it wasn't for like, business reasons and training reasons, I probably wouldn't be on Instagram. Like, I've not got TikTok because I'm not in primary school. I use Facebook because just because I've got family and stuff on there. But like, what I don't like is the fact that so let's say, for example, Phoebe, what's your max clean and jerk?
75.
75, right. So let's say tomorrow you go into the gym and you're at 77.5 kilograms. Yep. And you get a video of it and it's absolutely fucking amazing. You feel great. You work really hard for it. You put it on Instagram, so you've got a log of it and all your friends can see it. Then the next thing, you stick it on and click post, and then you start flicking through, and there's people fucking strict pressing it. Do you get what I mean? Like, these people lifting double your weight, and straight away it's just like, oh, well, I'm a piece of shit, and that was not worth it. And it's just, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, bringing it back to sort of like the whole instant gratification thing. So something that we talk about a lot in the gym is, so basically, like, if you pick a random athletic person off the street and bring them into the gym and show them a ring muscle up, okay, some people can just do a ring muscle up. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be like, you know, aesthetically pretty and stuff like that, but they can get themselves from under the rings to on top of the rings.
Yeah.
They've got no concept of what it's like to work hard for a ring muscle up. Do you get what I mean? They can just do it. Whereas if you get somebody who has not got an athletic background, they can't even do a pull-up, never mind a ring muscle up. What happens is when they train them for the next 2 or 3 years and then can eventually do that ring muscle up, it's worth so much more to that person. Even though it's the same thing, it's still a ring muscle up, but it's the person that's worked really, really hard for it is worth more than like than someone that's just gone, oh yeah, just get it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like the other thing as well, like if you get something instantly, so if you buy a new car, I can't remember what they said it is now, but like it's something like new car syndrome. So you buy a new car, and after 4 weeks, you don't give a shit that you've got a new car. Like it's
Yeah.
great for the first few weeks. Like, oh yeah, this is amazing. But after that, it just like it's almost a honeymoon period ends, and it's just another car. And it's because it's so sort of like short and instantly available. So yeah, like you just the problem is like you say, everything is so now. And even if it's not, it at least appears that way. And that's the problem. And you can, if you move people to, don't aim for now, aim for like, what do you want to be doing in 1 year, 3 year, 5 years? Do you get what I mean? Not like, what do you want to snatch next week? What do you want to snatch in 3 years' time? Do you get what I mean? And that's basically a better way to look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think as well, if you've got two people that are millionaires and one person won the lottery, one person worked for that money through business endeavors and hard work and grit for years and years and years, that second person's going to be much happier because they know what it's taken to have that money rather than just having it for free, essentially.
Yeah, no, like, and you know what? That's a really good example as well. Like a really good way of looking at it. Because like it's the sensation of like of achievement and fulfillment. Like you've earned it yourself. You've grafted for it. Like it's the difference between like earning something and being given it, isn't it? Like you just there's nothing attached to it because you've just not had to put any effort into it. Like there's no sense of pride, is there?
That's why CrossFit's so good as a sport, because people come into it and let's say a weightlifter comes into it, well, they're going to need to put a lot of work into their engine and vice versa. You know, and if someone's a good gymnast and they might not necessarily have the ability to, you know, produce force on external load, they might just be better at manipulating their body weight. So it forces that person to work on their weaknesses.
Yeah.
So to finish off, I just want to ask you, it's something that I think a lot of coaches or PTs might deal with. If they're working with a client who doesn't take ownership for their shortcomings and always uses excuses as to why they're not reaching their goals, how would you go about guiding them to make positive change and to take ownership for these shortcomings?
So with some people are dead in the water. There's some people that have been doing what they've been doing so long that they're not interested. Do you get what I mean? Like you as their coach, as their trainer, it's your responsibility and it's nothing to do with them. With them people, it's hard, if achievable at all. Whereas if you're dealing with somebody that knows they need to make a change, it has to come from them internally. Do you get what I mean? Like if I approach somebody and say, right, you need to work on this, like, then this is like a random person, they're gonna go, Whereas if they approach me and go, I need to work on this, they already know internally they need to do it. Do you get what I mean? So it's coming from a totally different place. Now, the best coach in the world cannot coach certain athletes, or not even athletes, certain people. Do you get what I mean? Like being coachable is such a massive trait for people, and it's one thing that I'd actually say to anybody that's looking into getting into training or that wants to actually get anywhere in terms of like, you know, anywhere really. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in the fitness industry. Like you've got to be coachable. Like and it might not even necessarily be from another coach. So let's say, for example, if I'm in the gym and I'm lifting, for example, and somebody who has just started training, and let's say I'm snatching, and someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, like in your snatch, I've just spotted you doing this." Like I'm not gonna turn around and go, "You've no idea what you're talking about. You've just started. I've been doing this so long." Do you get what I mean? Because like they can see certain things that like you don't know that you're doing. One, because you're doing the lift. Two, like people can almost know too much sometimes. Do you get what I mean? So if someone says that you're doing this, even if what they're asking you to do is wrong, like still take it on board and go, "Oh, okay, thank you for spotting that for me." If you can explain to them why you're doing it, then obviously do it. But like just the whole being coachable thing, because the more coachable you become, like the more people are going to want to help you and coach you. Do you get what I mean? Because you can't learn everything yourself, can you? Let's face it. And the more people that are prepared to help you, the better you're going to become. So yeah, I'd encourage people. So let's say if you're a coach or a trainer and you've got somebody that thinks it's all your fault or your duty as the coach, you've almost just got to have the conversation with them, and obviously do it politely. Don't upset them, and just try to get them to become more coachable. And it's a two-way street as well. Do you get what I mean? Like if let's say you're working with a client, I don't know, you do 2 1-to-1s with them a week, you have a couple of check-ins a month, whatever. Over a monthly period, it's not a long time, is it? Like it's a little tiny percent. And as the coach, you're looking after that little tiny percent, and they're looking after the rest of it. And it's the rest of it where like you actually get better. Because like we said earlier on, it's not the little bits. It's how consistent you are throughout a longer time, which is what obviously like helps you get to where you need to be. So that was very round the houses, but yeah, basically get them to be more coachable, and obviously understand that it's on them. It's on them. Coaches and trainers, we're just guides. We're literally guiding you from A to B. Like you've got to walk the walk at the end of the day. And that's basically what I'd say to people, but nicely.
Brilliant. Well, before we finish, I'm going to start a new thing with this podcast where my current guest will ask my next guest a question, one of the warm-up style questions. So off the top of your head, what question would you have for my next guest? I'm not going to tell you anything about them, just a random question for them.
So a recent question that we've been talking about in the gym this week, one of my clients asked me, what is the best steak that I've ever had and where have I had it?
Okay, let's hope they're not vegan.
If they are, they shouldn't be on the podcast. No, I'm joking. No hate to vegan.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Josh. I really appreciate